Cherish your visions and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. You can today listen to Fantastic Radio UK on your internet radio set anywhere. Fantastic Radio UK, the home for the Afropolitan.
Everything's fine, really. It's great. You sometimes feel like you're unraveling from the inside out. No one talks about it. There's this elephant in the room, and you're it. You sit there in silence, just growing more facial hair than your son. And the mood swings, they are, shall we say, touch erratic, which is terrible advice. Just stick your head in the freezer. He said, that's going to sort it. I said, great, thanks. It's really going to help with sleepless nights. For the moment that my brain turns to puree, very helpful, thank you. And the anxiety, that can just... But I won't let it define me. I may be changing, but I won't let it change me. I'm still a woman, still a lover, still a fighter, still me. I won't let menopause change that. Holland and Barrett, supporting women through menopause naturally.
Progress means celebrating change. There's an element of the work that I do that, to me, feels like a constant love letter to the people that I see in the world. That's the thing that inspires me most. It's finding people who have a story to be told and thinking, how can I contribute to that? How can I give people a wider understanding of the people around them than they had before I told this story. I define progress very similarly in my job to, I think, anyone's job. It's about how can you take something that exists, which is my industry, and how people have told stories, how we tell stories, and how do you improve that? How do you make that better? I think at this moment in time, it's about expanding the lens. It's about the global community who's receiving our stories is getting larger. It's getting more nuanced, it's getting more varied. And so the stories have to get larger and more nuanced and more varied. It's about creating better stories that serve a larger audience better. Hopefully it becomes this kind of self-feeding machine where we understand the people around us better, we can serve our community better. I think the way to drive progress for mankind would probably be to listen better, to listen more, to listen with humility, and working on our understanding of ourselves and improving that and bringing in all the things that we don't know and acknowledging how much we don't know. Your attitude will define not just your future, but the future of those around you. And so it's a thing to be carried with intention and care and generosity. I think that's the ultimate goal of good culture. What's your story of progress?
Need a safe way to send money? There's a more reliable way. Send money direct to a bank account safely and securely. MoneyGram, the right way to send money. Download the app and send today.
Think of freedom. A sphere full of possibilities. Experiencing power and ultimate luxury. A breath of fresh air. An escape from the ordinary. Connecting or disconnecting. Communicating without words, without limits. Freedom from and freedom to choose what's right. To create change. To shape the future. The sky is the limit. The Audi Skysphere concept. Freedom in motion.
noche, llega la nueva mañana, como después de la noche, llega la nueva mañana. Así también en tu llanto hay una luz de esperanza, así también en tu llanto hay una luz de esperanza. Como después de la lluvia, llega de nuevo la calma, como después de la lluvia, llega de nuevo la calma. El año nuevo te espera con alegrías en el alma. El año nuevo te espera con alegrías en el alma. Y vamos abriendo puertas, y vamos llenando heridas.
Don't think your dreams are impossible just because it has not happened. Fantastic Radio UK is on your smart speaker. Fantastic Radio UK. Your music, your memories.
Hi, good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost 10 minutes past 7. Listen, I am excited, ecstatically excited to come in your way this morning. How are you doing? You well? Today is the 23rd of December, 2021. I'm excited. I'm so joyful that you made the time in joining us. Today happens to be our last show for the year 2021. I promise you this. We're going to be coming back in the new year. I want to welcome you to this great 23rd of December 2021. I tell you this. We all have dreams. We all have hopes. We all have aspirations. We all have anticipations. We all have aspirations, right? And some of the hopes and dreams that we do have, we have to have the tenacity, the drive, the motivation, but most of all, having the patience to take a time in making it happen. It was Walt Disney who said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. All our dreams, right, can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. We have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And some of us have gone through with all the hustle and bustle and the coronavirus and everything that it's come with. We've sailed through. We've found ways around it. Those who loves one passed away during these moments, we're sending our love and condolences. But for those those who love, who miss these loved ones who passed away, these moments or in the past year or two, we send our love and condolences to you. But for those who are here celebrating life, jubilating and spending time with our loved ones, we've been given the gift of life, another chance to maximize our dreams. We've been given the opportunity again to stretch, maximize, extend, explore, take this adventure through life and make it happen. You have the power within you. We've been sharing throughout the week of the potential, the drive, the hope, and the possibilities that resides in us. It's 14 past 7 this morning. On the screen, for those who are not having access to listen to us or watch us on YouTube, we have all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. My friend Charles Bogle will say the dream is free, but the work that comes with it is what you and I would have to do. What is it that you're pursuing? What is it that you are working towards? This whole year that you've worked on. My question to you, have you pursued it? For those who haven't started, I'll admonish and challenge you to step in and make it happen. And for those who are on course, congratulations. As they say in North London, big up to you. But I'll say for those who haven't been able to achieve anything, or haven't been able to realize and maximize and been able to push their dreams and hope forward, I would suggest during these seasons and times when we have free time, let's spend some time and look into how best we can revisit the dream and the hope. It helps when you scribble it. It helps when you can see it. It helps when it's pictorial. It helps when you've written it all down and you can go back to it. Remember, we talked about vision board. And we talked about having the time and the moment to cast vision. It helps. I want to welcome you to this beautiful, lovely 23rd of December. We got 2 days to hit Christmas. Yesterday, we shared a gift that we give to ourselves. Just give yourself a gift this Christmas and spend some time with yourself. Spend some time with a dream. Spend some time with the hopes. Spend some time with the idea that you have, the business idea, the family idea. What is it that you're looking at pursuing? Give yourself that gift and make it happen. Okay? And I end with this. If you are looking at any point, sending money to any part of Africa, I really highly suggest MoneyGram. Money goes to loved ones across the continent of Africa. As we have a conversation and dissect and get into my guest this piece of work that he has produced, I'll be sharing also with you how you can send money across the continent of Africa and all these lovely places. Once again, I want to welcome you to our conversation and our last show this year, and we come back in the following year, 2022. But in the meantime, I want to welcome you. I thank the production team, Sina Hamidi, thank you, the technical producer, and also for Sophie for the brilliant work that you guys do. Ken, thank you. Terry, thank you. And the illustrious Sophie Charles, who's doing brilliant work. Sophie, thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing here, and you make it happen. We're going to go do music. When we return, I have my guest with me who will be talking to us and who's written a beautiful book, 6 Strings and a Note, available on Amazon. But I'll fill you in and I'll tell you more of this individual who I'll be talking to for the next 30 to 40 minutes. He's written a book by a legendary Ghanaian guitarist called Mr. Ko Ejakonimo. And I grew up listening to his music. My father played his music. My grandfather played his music. And, you know, he's not just a Ghanaian guitarist. He is a global citizen, still available and still doing brilliant work. Let's do music. When we return, I promise you, we are going to have a beautiful time. As the quote goes, our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. The reason why I brought this author on and brought this writer on is the persistence and the determination, the fortitude that this gentleman Ejakonimo displayed through his life, or from the villages or from the streets of the village of Fuanse, some part of in Ghana, in West Africa. Listen, I'm not the author. I'm not the writer. I am just going to have a conversation with the author, and he will break it down and all the details that comes with it. Let's do music. It's 90 minutes. 90 minutes. Pastor, my name is Kojo Bonti Amwako, and welcome to Britain's home of possibilities. Your music, your possibilities. Let's do music.
To advertise your products and services on Fantastic Radio UK, call the Fantastic Radio UK sales team today on 079 445 68048 or email at sales@fantasticradio.co.uk.
Salsita. pido curva, mamá. Sabes mejor que nadie que me fallaste, que lo que prometiste se te olvidó. Sabes a ciencia cierta que me engañaste, aunque alguien te amara igual que yo. Yo no doy de razones para despreciarte, y sin embargo quiero que sea...
Need a quick way to send money? There's a faster way. Send money direct to a bank account fast. MoneyGram, the right way to send money. Download the app and send today.
Cherish your visions and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievements. You can today listen to Fantastic Radio UK on your internet radio set anywhere. Fantastic Radio UK, the home for the Afropolitan.
Hey, you are welcome back. 21 minutes past 7. My name is Kojo Bonchi Amwako. I'm so glad, excitedly glad to have you joining me for this conversation. Before my guest joins us in the conversation and just having a chat and try and figure out why the book was written and, you know, all the nitty-gritties that goes with it. For those who have been coming to Mr. Errol McCullough's meetings across London, he is having the latest meeting in January, the 29th in Brixton. And if you want to know more prostate cancer and what goes into it and how, you know, people go for the operation and the importance of getting checked for the PSA, get to your GP. On the 29th of January, Mr. McCullough sits in Brixton with a team. And if you want to be part of it, please, you can email Mr. McCullough at sittalk@errolmccullough.com at some point. We will get the details on and we can get a conversation going with them, and you can get in touch with them as we progress and as we have the conversation. I'll be reminding you how you can get in touch, and if you want to come through with the directions in Brixton, when you go into Brixton, it's 410 Brixton Road, and it's going to be held at the JN Bank in Brixton in London. That's southwest London. You can go and make that happen. He writes this book, and he prepares this book for you and I have gone through it. And this morning, I have the pleasure of having my special guest today who will be talking to us about this book that himself and, you know, he sat and you just scribbled. And every time I've read about 4 or 5 times, loved it. And I felt I had to get this gentleman joining me and having this conversation. 6 strings and a note. It's a compelling and relevant portrait of the artistic life of Daniel Kwabena Boa Amponsa, known around the world on the stage as Eja Konimo, written with a curiosity, simplicity, and a keen memory for detail. The book takes us on a journey through Konimo's work as an artist and also as a man with deep affection for culture. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a pleasure this morning. It's my greatest joy, and it's my deepest joy to have the author and the writer of this book, 6 strings and a note, Mr. Eric Edmonds Amwako. Eric Edmonds Obey Amwako, and, you know, spending the time with me. Good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning. And I am well, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's always good to connect, and it's always good to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. Obviously, thank you for having me.
Coming through. I mean, I'm excited to have you here, and the reason why I decided to have you before we even proceed, what made you decide to write this book?
Well, I think that's a question I get often, but it's almost one of those things that every time you kind of go through that reflective process. Well, I come to every writing project as a researcher, as a cultural anthropologist of sorts. And so even though in my one life, I am a literary agent doing some work in that agency space, I come to the work as a researcher. So I look out for stories that are not just compelling, but stories that are, I like to call it transitional, right? Kind of, so it goes across from generation to generation. I remember when I first knew of Ejako Nimo, I was a little boy. All I remember was he had a white beard, right? I remember that story. And when I met him many decades later, he still had the same white beard. So I was just fascinated with a man who seemed like he never aged. But it just was a phenomenal exchange when I first met him. And so the book was something that was meant to be. Let me take it back. I think when I first met him, it was at an event in Texas, in the US. And I'm sitting back listening to him play. He was playing his usual. So he plays Adadem music. That's his style. So that's folk music. So folk music is Adadem music in the Ghanaian cultural setting. And so I'm listening to him actually pull the strings one after the other, and I'm fascinated. But most of the people in the room weren't paying attention. Okay. The difference that I saw, what was very intriguing to me, is that most of the people who were non-Ghanaians were just as fascinated. Yeah. But the people who were Ghanaians really didn't seem to care too much. Yeah. And a good friend of mine always talked about the fact that when things are closer to our noses and our faces, we don't see it. Human nature, we tend to celebrate and see the things that are farther away. And so I couldn't help it. I was really struck by the excellence of the art, the creativity part, and just a chance to meet somebody who I have been fascinated with his music for many, many years. So it was just very interesting. And so that's how our lives connected, and the rest is history.
You know, running through and spending time with the book and reading bits and pieces around it, I noticed that he has such an affinity for knowledge.
Yes.
He comes across as an individual who is huge on knowledge. Lead me into that, and what led to that side of him developing and wanting so much to have this quest for knowledge? Where did it come from?
Well, Ejako Nimo will tell you that science gave birth to an inquisitive mind.
Right.
And he grew up and did a lot of, so he knows a lot about Socrates and Plato's Republic and much of the Greek.
Then I was just about to go there.
So he was exposed very early in his life to two main trains of thought. He was exposed to the classics, the Greek history, the Latins, and all of that. But he was also, very importantly, exposed to the rich Ashanti culture. And so his creativity was born out of actually blending the two, understanding that he is this person who is immersed in an Ashanti culture, but he is also a global person who has to understand the world from a global perspective. He talks about, I remember, this is a funny story. I remember Ejako Nimo told the story about a young man who the police, I think, the police pulled him over one time somewhere in the world, and the guy said, you know, he's going crazy. He can hear B-flat notes in his brain. And so he was actually pulled over or kind of cited for disturbing public peace.
Right.
And the man told the police that he didn't intend to disturb public peace, but he felt so captivated by the B flat note to an extent that he did not have the willpower to ignore it.
Right.
Right. And so Konimo comes to life with just almost like a juxtaposition of ideas, of experiences that when he puts it all together, it kind of produces something that's not just authentic, but something that hopefully every listener gets something unique from it. So I'll tell you a very interesting story. I talked to a good friend of mine, and he shared a story. You listen to the same song, and you walk away with something completely different. So
Right.
10 people can listen to the same song and walk away with something completely different. And that's essentially, that's the essence of art, right? Being able to express something in such a way that it has an individual hue to it, but it also has a very authentic story to it, that it doesn't lose what the author or what the creator want to get across. So Konimo is just complex and simple in the same breath. So the book itself is a very, very fascinating project, at least for me.
Right. Thank you for your time, and thank you for expanding on that, because whilst I was reading the page, going through the pages, that was what came across to me. He came across quite an enigma, really, for me, because he came across as an individual who was curious enough and also had the courage and the simplicity of life. It came through his intelligence, came through the book, the content, and his story. What is Fuasi? What is Fuasi? Fuasi, talk about Fuasi being a village. Where is it, and which part of Africa or Ghana is it?
So Fuasi is Ghana. Fuasi is Ashanti region. Fuasi is pretty much southwest Ashanti region. I think the bigger part really is not. I'll tell you a very interesting story that takes away from Fuasi a little bit, but it takes the reader to a place called Kukwum. Right. Kukwum is actually further outside of Ashanti region. But the interesting story that came out was when I first met Konimo. Right. And again, I come to this as a researcher, right? So I am digging through pages and finding out what we have at the Smithsonian and different parts of the world. So I go online, like any researcher will do, and I start buying books and reading and listening to his music to immerse myself into the work itself. I called him one night and I said, Konimo, and I say this in a local dialect, obviously, and I asked him, because everywhere I went to, his date of birth seemed to be October, I think it was October 9th or something like that. Right. So as a researcher, I did my calculation. If a person is called Kwabena is a Tuesday born in Ghana, right? In the Ashanti culture tree. So if a person is called Kwabena, when I do my calculation backwards, it should fall on a Tuesday. Right. But when I did the calculation, it didn't. So something was wrong with the equation. Either his date of birth was wrong and the whole world got it wrong. Okay. Or I was probably smoking something that morning. So I figured I wasn't smoking. So I called him, and he said, that's when he told me a very powerful story, that his father lived in Kukwum, in a smaller village than even Fuasi. And it wasn't until he visited his father that he walked into a room, and there's a hut, and in Ghana we call it Atakwame Dai, and it's the hut pretty much. Sorry. Atakwa, so the ATTA, Ata, and Kwame, KWAME. So Atakwame Dai is a house for Atakwame, whatever that means. But the essence of it is a mud house, right? It's a hut. And he walked in, and his father had a trumpet on the wall. Okay. And a curious boy shifted the trumpet, and next to it was his name, Kwabena, and it was 27 January 1931. That's when he found out his date of birth. That's what he found out. So he knew at that time that his date of birth was wrong, because it was his uncle who had taken him to school, written the wrong date on the paper. Nobody asked it, and the rest of his life, it became one track and one day. So again, these are some or the small, subtle information I found that made the thing fascinating. So it wasn't just almost kind of like a music story. It was a life story that's both complex and simple in the same breath.
Still with the complexity and the simplicity that Mr. Daniel Kwabena Boa Amponsa, or known on stage as Konimo.
Correct.
He starts as Daniel Kwabena Boa Amponsa, but on stage he calls himself Konimo. Now, talk to me about the name Konimo, and at what point did he have the Eja, and what does Eja mean?
So let's go backwards. So Eja is a term of endearment almost in our culture. That so Eja means it's almost like a reverence, a father. So Eja in some contexts is father, but in most contexts it's almost talking about an elder statesman, an older person in the society. So that's a starting point. Konimo became almost a nickname that started with one of his very good friends. His name was Kwabnonyina. So some of these guys gave him the name, and so he became, as he grew up, when he was younger, it was Konimo, but as he grew up, he became a Jack Konimo, joining the two. Konimo wasn't actually supposed to be Daniel. He was supposed to be Frederick.
Okay.
And so this is the interesting part. The more you learn, the more you talk to him, it's almost like he's a real onion, right? You're peeling one story after another. So that's what makes him fast. So he was supposed to be Frederick, and his uncle loved the name Daniel because of the Bible story. Daniel was in the lion's den, and he was fascinated with the story. It became his name. So that's one thing. But going back to your story, he became a Jack Konimo because not just in Ghana, but across the world, everywhere he went, he actually embodied a cultural. He told a cultural story with an authenticity that was just very different. Some of the things he talks about, some international influences in his life, like people like Thelonious Monk, Charlie Parker, people like Duke Ellington, some of these people that he met, people that he sat across the table with and discussed different things. I remember he told us when Paul Simon on the Graceland album was in Ghana, did work with the Jack Konimo. So there are some songs in Paul Simon's Graceland album, very popular one. When you listen to the chords behind it, you hear the very popular Ashanti tone, Yamponsa, behind it. Right? And so, go ahead.
Eric, you're talking Paul Simon, the South African.
Yes. Paul Simon, Graceland. So I try to hone in because Paul Simon is legendary also. And one of the big things he did in Ghana was actually going to Ghana and collaborating with different people with different sounds. Because Simon wanted sounds like the Seprewa, Adenkum, other traditional sound, Fontom From, so that when you're listening to the music, it has a very natural but a very, very rich effect on the listener. So that's how he connected with Konimo in Ghana.
Listen, guys, it's 38 minutes past 7. I'm talking to Eric Edmonds Amwako Edmonds. Eric Obey Amwako Edmonds, writer, entrepreneur. And he's the author, and he writes this beautiful work called The Six Strings, or Six Strings and a Note, stating and also mentioning the story of this beautiful, amazing, illustrious African musician who plays the guitar. He comes from a place called Kwasi, and he tells the story. This book is available. It's available on Amazon. This morning, I've literally gone on there, checked it out. Look, be right here. Look, can you see that? You would have to go on Amazon. You would have to go on Amazon. Just type in six strings, and a note, right? And you would read everything about this gentleman called Eja Konimo. Eja Konimo. His name comes, as Eric said, it comes from the whole history, from the Ashanti land, from Ghana, and he comes through sharing his story, and he breaks it out. I read what he talked of meeting all these jazz pieces, and his relationship with all these other people. We will have to take a break, and when we return, I would love you to get into some of the chapters. What was he really saying? There are a few things read. I'm not too sure what he was saying. Talk about his married life, his children, and even writing the songs, and his whole agenda of telling stories. What goes into it, the intellectual process, and how he goes via sociology and uses the stories that he encounters to tell his musical story. His name is Edgar Kodimo. My guest today is the author and the writer of Six Strings and a Note. My name is Kojo Bonti Amwako. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening to us on Huawei Television, good morning. If you are on Samsung Television, I'll say good morning to you. If you're on Roku Television, can I say good morning to you too? You good? Okay, right. For those who want to find us, get us on Amazon, you go to Amazon, you download our app, you can listen to us. And for those who haven't checked us out on Alexa, all you would have to say is, Alexa, play Fantastic Radio, and it will do that. My name is Kojo Bonti Amwako, and my guest this morning is Mr. Eric Edmonds, who writes this beautiful book, Six Strings and a Note, by of this legendary guitarist Edgar Kodimo in his own words. Go into Amazon, get your feet. We get music when we return. I would love to delve deep, get deeper, and you will enjoy this conversation. Stay with me. We'll be right back.
Fantastic Radio UK is now available on your Amazon Alexa skills to keep you company. To listen, say, Alexa, play Fantastic Radio UK.
Kakamia poka mwasi anansio Odom sesre kusi anansi munonfe Nansi munonfe anansio Okuya Anansi munonfe anansio Mitro kakamio, minro kakamio Kakamia poka mwasi anansio Mitro kakamio, minro kakamio Kakamia poka mwasi anansio Odom sesre kusi anansi munonfe Nansi munonfe anansio Okuya Anansi munonfe anansio. The old man plants coconut tree. Thank you.
They are 5-0 down.
Uber Eats. Quarter pounder with cheese. Mayo chicken. Sweet chili chicken wrap. 2 Big Macs. Nice. Filet o fish. 4 large fries. 2 Smarties McFlurries. Triple cheeseburger.
Yes.
And 6 chicken McNuggets.
Let's go.
Kitchen.
Yes.
Uber Eats. Bring it.
We've only just begun. We start out walking and learn to run. Yes, we've just begun.
At every step, we're by your side. Lloyds Bank, by your side.
Eya great and Sankoni econom. Yen him say, or Brecho will be a sea. So do we are now one in the Pidiaba. Yakoyada from one. That the kitchen free the papa. Akojanane owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Una ye kojana no owoti se no boy udi. Akojanane owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. High lifetime. Agasi jamre ni bancheria tie. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Una ye kojana no owoti se no boy odi. Abrantie bitu batako nyana ho. Eye be de kromu anore ne nsa mane. Onkwe ye. Nyamwa ege be hiato dabi. Anche biara na ne papa so peti wuye. Wadin krata akoma ne namfonom. Agojana ne owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Una ye kojana no owoti se no boy. Anche biara na ne papa peti wuye. Wadin krata akoma ne namfonom.
Saying the word vagina is nothing to worry about. We don't need to call it foo-foo, flower, lady bits, or front bottom. Vaginal dryness is nothing to worry about either. It's just part of that whole menopause thing. Just pop some Vagisan moist cream on your vagina and you should be as right as rain. You don't even need a prescription.
Fantastic Radio UK is now available on your Amazon Alexa skills to keep you company. To listen, say, Alexa, play Fantastic Radio UK.
Guys, you're very welcome. Whilst the music was going on and we were talking and bouncing on, sharing, dancing around, I took a dive into what one person's the uniqueness of Coldimo leaves in the full foundations of his lyrics that floats on an ensemble of indigenous Ghanaian instruments, further flavored by a rich embroidery of the acoustic guitar by Dr. Chrissy Young. I read some writings, and from there I would love us to go into it and get the conversation going. Guys, you're very much welcome. And I really want to thank you for choosing Britain's home of possibilities. Once again, my name is Ojo Wonti Amwako, and my special guest is Mr. E. Obing Amwako Edmonds, who comes from a business in America. So he's speaking from America, having this conversation with Mr. Edmonds, thank you for making the time and also spending this moment with. And again, as I said, if you are looking at transferring money or sending money to your loved ones anywhere in Africa, any part of the West Indies, please look to www.monogram.com. Another writer said, that is Professor Abena Fusia, she said, in your tongue, what at first seems passing, temporary, ephemeral, accumulates like individual grains of sand, becoming the spectacular architecture of the anthill, slowly, unseen, until the landscape is unimaginable without them. So all these people have had some kind of a connection with the Jaconimo, I guess.
Yes. Many people, and there are many more people who you probably are connected to him much more than you think.
Okay.
Because there's so many people who his music has touched and who has really kind of benefited from the wisdom of his art. And so, yes, to answer your question, many people have been connected with him.
I would want to get into, some of the chapters, his relationship with Kwabena Onyina, the guitarist. I would want to also go with his affiliation with Theophilus Monks and all the people that he met, on his way, as he went into America, went to lecture and all the other places. What jumps to me whilst I was looking through the book, what jumps to me is a man who has gone through the challenges, or he has had his own fair share of the challenges of life. And he's been quite persistent, determined, and very adventurous. What led him into England?
He had an educational scholarship. I think when he first started, he actually worked in a science department in a University of Science and Technology at the time. In Ghana. So at some point, he got into a scholarship. So he had actually ended up in, he did some work in Paddington Technical College, an Imperial College, University of Salford. He spent a lot of his time in the 1960s in the University of Salford. So, but he went there most as a scientist, right? Or as a scientist in training. And it is this science that he brings, the technical aspect of science is what he brings into to combine with his art. I remember he talked about in 1962, he was in London, and he said there was a terrible winter in London. And he joked about it. He said the winter was so cold that the elephant had to drink whiskey. The elephants in the London Zoo needed to drink whiskey to stay warm.
Very cold.
Right. And yeah, but he said it was very cold. But that experience in 1962 is what gave him the lyrics to the song, a very popular song, Abroche Abrabo. Right. And he talks about living. So people who come from, immigrants from different parts of the world show up in the Western world in pursuit of something. It could be financial, it could be educational, it could be social, it could be anything, a myriad of things. But whatever brings them or takes them away from their home, they get to this new land and something else awaits them. Sometimes it's much different from what they expected. And so the story, that's the backstory to the music, Abroche Abrabo. It turns out it became one of those music that resonates with so many people because it's true. There's a truth to it. There's an authenticity to the words that he's using. And obviously the music and the lyrics and the sound and the tune brings it all in. So that's the story in London, how he got into London. And how he did some of the things that he was doing in the early 1960s in London.
Right. Let me take you slightly back. A few minutes ago, we played few songs. We played a few of his pieces. Owo to say Nobo. What does it mean? Some of these, because I realized that a lot of the songs that he does, it's all in the Ghanaian Shui language. Now, Ghana has several languages. For those who are watching as Ghana is in West Africa, and Ghana as well. I come from Ghana. I'm originally come from Ghana. You can tell from my accent. You can tell from my name. You can tell from the complexion. My skin has been kissed by the sun. You can tell. Okay, right. It's what? It's 54 past 7. But you know, what does that mean? What is it in Nobuwa? What does it mean?
Great song and great question, actually. So Owo is death. That's the translation in the Chi language. So Owo is death. And Nobuwa is a concept that in the traditional Akan society, farmers do not go to the farm alone, or farmers do not harvest their products alone. So when it's time for harvest, I call you, you call the next guy, and we go and we harvest the thing, bring it home, and we split whatever we find. When it's your turn, you call me, I call the next guy, and we go together. So the concept is, so Nobuwa is two words that kind of comes together, and no is to weed, Bois is to help. So help me weed. That's what coins the word. So death is like a concept that people are coming together to harvest something together. When people die in our society, nobody grieves alone. Right. You need the next guy and the next guy to come together. So it's kind of like a counseling session, a network of people to kind of carry the whole thing along. The fact is, this is the simplicity of it. One person cannot carry a casket. In our society, that's the logic here, right? So even when you are able and you are willing and you are rich and you have all the money in the world, you still can't drag a corpse all by yourself to the graveside. You need somebody to help you. So what to say Nobuwa is almost like a figurative way of explaining life. So Koonimo's work, the interesting part of it is, yes, he's talking about death, but really the deeper meaning is he's talking about life. Life in itself, also in Nobuwa, life in itself, it's also something that it's a community story, right? So that's what he's talking about. But he uses death to tell the story because death captures the story very well, and then people can actually connect life itself to it. So that's what that song Owu to Said Nobuwa actually means.
What you said takes me to his story writing skills. I find him as a masterful storyteller. Where does he go to get these stories? Where does he go to excavate, right? To literally lift these stories and supplant it in the songs that we do. Where does he does? Where does he go? Is it about marriage? Is it about children? Is it about what is happening in the community at the time? Where does he go? What space does he go to sort of bring out? I would love to pick up the word again, excavate, sort of draw out all these stories that he tells, because I'm listening to it. And sometimes for a person who is who's a Chi speaking person, who is an Ashanti and who comes from the continent, born and raised in the continent, till I came into England, there are words that he says that I don't get, and I'm wondering what some of the Chi as proper heightened, elevated Chi, right? So you need time to dismantle and be able to fully understand what he's really saying, and his beautiful storytelling skills. Where does he go and how does he do that?
He does, one word is experience. He taps into the experience. Now, mind you, this is a young man that when he was very little, he talks about a man called Reverend D.K. Sam, Daniel K. Sam. He was a catechist, a Presbyterian catechist who actually took him along and actually exposed him to the piano. So he started actually playing the piano until he bumped into two friends in school when he was in high school at the Sadell College in Ghana. So he's in high school, his two friends are playing guitar, and he decided all of a sudden he never wants to play the piano anymore, he wants to play guitar. Right. So that's how he took on the guitar, and the rest is history. But to answer your question, his experience from Mr. D.K. Sam taking him along, then very early in his life, he actually had a traumatic experience that he was in school at Disadel College, weeding, cutting grass with what we call in our society, we call it a machete, right?
Right.
So he's cutting grass, and the machete, one of his friends are also with the guy standing next to him, whacks the thing and it hits his right leg. And so his right leg, they had to actually rush him to a hospital. At that time, yeah, it was a little different. They took him home and they put what in our society we call aginedro. Back in the day, back in the day, when soldiers went to war, they went to battle and came back, these were some of the traditional herbs that they used to treat them.
Right.
Unfortunately for Konimo, they put the same thing on and his leg is swelling and it's getting worse.
Okay.
At some point, his uncle shows up and said, no, we can't do it. They rush him to the hospital. The short version of the story is, at some point, they move him from where he is to go stay with his uncle. He learns a great deal from his uncle. Package that. At some point, his sister, his older sister, gets married into the Ashanti royal family. That's how he ends up in the Ashanti royal family. And so, at some point, the same young boy who started in Fuase is the guy who's holding the Queen Mother's umbrella when there's big occasions. So he gets the chance to sit, I don't know if the word footstool is the right word, but he gets the chance to sit at the feet of some of the elder statesmen in the society. So what we call, what Proverbs in Ashanti culture, we call it Anwinsem.
Right.
So Anwinsem became almost like, the Anwinsem is Proverbs. Abakosem is also almost like related to Proverbs. So Anwinsem and Abakosem, which are both the Akan philosophy, become something that he's so immersed into.
Right.
So in Akan philosophy, if I can, in Akan Abakosem, if I can tell you and you can understand the thing without thinking, it's nothing. So I have to tell you something. You have to go home, process the information before it sinks in. That's how a Jacko Nemo actually learned to actually speak like that. I think one story that's really fascinating, answering your question also, is he lost his wife many years ago. He actually sat on his wife's grave site, on a grave, went to the gravesite in the cemetery, sits there and actually creates the song Ousua. He wanted to be in that moment. Back to the one word I said, the experience word. He wanted to be in that moment and share the experience in a rather very authentic way. And so he doesn't sit at home and maybe take a glass of wine and start making stuff up. He wants to actually say something and write something that really comes from his heart. So in one word, experience.
The book is called 6 Strings and a Note. 6 Strings and a Note. Legendary guitarist Eja Konimo in his own word. Written by Obeng Amoako Edmonds. It's been forwarded by Professor Emeritus J.H. Kwabena in Ketia in Ghana. Now, you don't have to be a Ghanaian. You don't have to be an...
No, you don't have to be.
You don't have to come from my part of town to fully, enjoy this conversation. You don't have to. You would have to get this book. You go on Amazon. It's £22 on Amazon. You go on Amazon and get this book. Okay, get this book if you haven't. We're going to just take a quick dive, listen to just a piece of his music. When we return, I would love us to finalize our conversation, to literally come to the end of our chat. I would love us to go into that, and I want to get to know you a bit, and from there we will bid goodbye. Let's get a piece of music of Eja Konimo. When we return, we will have a last conversation, and that will be the end of our conversation. I would love to say thank you for watching, and thank you for connecting. For those who are listening to us on all our digital platforms, thank you. My name is Kojo Bonti Amwako. I'm so glad that you are on the other side enjoying the conversation, speaking and talking to Eric Obeng Amoako Edmonds, who is the writer of the 6 Strings and a Note, which can be bought easily on Amazon. Let's do music. When we return, We will finalize our conversation. But before we go, I say this: if you transfer money to any part of Africa, money going to Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, Botswana, Eswatini, South Africa, I will highly suggest and recommend you use MoneyGram. Easier way of sending money. Let's do music. We'll return and my conversation continues with Mr. Obeng Amwako Edmonds. Let's do it.
To advertise your products and services on Fantastic Radio UK, call the Fantastic Radio UK sales team today on 079 445 68048 or email at sales@fantasticradio.co.uk.
Akomo, brekomo, akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo ba madiache, obrekwe, anayeno. Akoba ba madiache. Akomo, brekomo, akokomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akoba ba madiache, obrekwe, anayeno. Akoba ba madiache. Okwadifo patati anche. Sosiana kwani hu nyansa. Tati ato samtene fiada hu se duani sie pebre. Sutobre ba no ada. Efso nyansa fu biara bo no sie debi. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na buna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na buna mope.
Fantastic Radio UK is now available on your Amazon Alexa skills to keep you company. To listen, say, Alexa, play Fantastic Radio UK.
Alexa, play Fantastic Radio UK. If you do that, you can listen to it. So on all your digital platforms, all you need to do is to say, Alexa, play Fantastic Radio UK, and you'll be able to listen to it. I am enjoying this conversation on two fronts. This last piece, this last music that we did, that we enjoyed, I remember my father would sometimes sit and play songs like this. And when I hear songs like this, it takes me back to my father's living room and the stories that my father sometimes would sit under the tree and be telling us, and it resonates with me. How was Konimo? How is he? And how is he now?
He is doing well. He is well into his early 90s, or no, actually mid 90s now.
Yes.
And so, but he's doing well, still very sharp. We talk just very, very regularly, and he's actually still working on a different music album coming up. So the man never stops working.
Right. And how old is he now?
I think he's 96 now.
Right, 96. You know, one of my greatest wish. Before I tell you my greatest wish, I have Margaret, who is watching us from Sydney. And Margaret says that, good morning, Kojo. I'm listening to you from Sydney, Australia, and I'm enjoying this conversation. I don't know who this Eja Konimo. All right, his name is Eja Konimo. I don't know who this Eja Konimo is, but I would go into Amazon and get my copy, and I would love to know more about him. So that's somebody calling and reading from Sydney saying, listen, he's enjoying. I have another person who's just sent me a message on WhatsApp saying that, good morning, Kojo. I'm really enjoying this conversation. My name is Kweki, and I'm listening to you from Leicester. I grew up also listening to this man's songs and loved it. My grandfather played his music. My father played his music, and my late mother also loved it. And thank you for doing this show. I love it. And thank you for inspiring every morning. That's Kwesi Sam from Leicester. Kwesi, good morning to you and thank you for listening. Another person sends me a text saying to me, good morning to you, Kojo. I'm really enjoying this. His name is Kunle. Kunle from Kunle. Where are you listening from? Kunle is listening to us from Manchester. Okay. Kunle is listening to us from Manchester saying, listen, good morning, Kojo. I'm really, really enjoying this time of conversation, quite relaxing, inspiring, and as usual, very, very forward thinking. I would go into Amazon and get my copy straight away and see the details and everything about it. That's Kunle from Manchester telling us what he's going to do, going on Amazon to do it. You can join Kunle, you can join Margaret, you can join the other people. Go on Amazon, www.amazon.com. Just search 6 Strings and a note. Is written by E. Obeng Amwako Edmonds, right? His name comes on the screen. And for those who are listening, you can go back on YouTube and check it out and listen to, this conversation. I want to say this. My greatest desire is at some point, time permitting and you pulling a string, if we can have an event. It could be virtual, it could be some kind of event where does he live in America as well, or he lives in Ghana? Where is he now?
No, he's in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. So, but he doesn't travel as much, but he's in Kumasi now.
You never know. We can get systems in place, get our technology allowing.
He'll love it. No, he'll love it. So thank you for extending the invitation. I'm sure he'll love it.
Yeah, we'd love to do that, where we can, some cast and get some shows going and, get him telling these stories to the world. And we've been broadcasted here in London. Eric, we ending our conversation. I'm enjoying this conversation with you, but I would love to find out what prompted you in writing this book. Clearly I can tell you quite of more of a younger man. So what are you doing for a young man? What are you doing with a 91-year-old man? Because like a younger man with a very old heart, or you are sort of an old soul. But what is motivating this? What motivates you writing these things?
Well, thank you for asking. Probably so. Maybe I am an old soul. I don't know. But Konima always quotes Horace Greeley, and the words fame is like vapor, popularity is an accident. Mm-hmm. Because riches eventually takes wings.
Right.
And his point, he always says that the only thing that endures is actually character. And so for me personally, I have always, again, like I said earlier at the top of the show, I come to every project as a researcher. That's my background. So my background is more so in a literary agency, in the research and cultural anthropologist perspective. So I take on projects that actually I believe has immense significance to humanity. So that's that. So when the story is actually one of those things that you can't put the pages down, that's what I'm looking for, right? And so it's very difficult. Obviously, writing is a very solitary adventure. But if you actually get immersed in a story, and you are kind of blown away by a person's character and attitude and perspective and philosophy, you can't help it but kind of get on board and pick. So, Jacob, we connected. And interestingly, when I first met, I have some guitars, some behind me. But when we first met, we sat together. I picked my guitar and I was playing a couple of chords. And I won't play any music today, so don't ask me. But I picked my guitar. I played some chords. He was playing. So even we had a connection with a guitar. And then Jack Onimo will take a pen and a paper and start teaching me the theory of music. Just so that it's not just about reading, not just about playing tunes, but actually understanding what you are doing. So it was just a very fascinating character that I got to meet. That's why I did actually write the book.
My special guest this morning is Mr. E. Obenyamuako Edmonds, and he's a writer, entrepreneur, and a philanthropist. His career spans roles in energy consulting and broadcast media, and starting with a global product development for the Associated Press in New York. His previous work includes an author, A Poke in the Eye, and he's also an author for the Atlantic Business Review. He's earned his undergraduate and a MBA at the University of Houston, and is a principal of the Nice Brick Project, a global educational initiative. He lives in Texas with his wife and his 2 lovely boys. We are just about to walk out of the conversation. Guys, if you are going to get this book, go on Amazon, type in 6 strings and a note. Thank you, Sina. Type in 6 strings and a note. You would get it. You got a picture of the gentleman, Mr. Eja Konimo, who is just right in front of it. You can get this book. Get it. It's £22. Amazing piece of work. The Otumfuo, the Asantehene Otumfuo Opokuwari said this: Nananum are proud of Kwabene's accomplishment. May God bless him. What connection has he got with the Otumfuo?
He grew up, I think I mentioned earlier briefly, he grew up in the Ashanti royal courts. So he got to know not the current Otumfuo, but even the older, the father. So he's been in there for the last 50, 60 years of his life. Maybe even more. I would say for the last 80 years of his life, he was connected with the royal family in Ghana, in the Ashanti Empire. So that's been his life. He's so immersed in culture. It is just fascinating.
Would you say, sorry to interrupt, would you say his affinity and his immersion in the royal home has helped with his lyrics and his storytelling skills?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That's undoubtedly the truth. One of my very good friends, a man who, rest in peace, passed about 2 years ago, he actually did the foreword to the book. And I am honored to call him my friend, Prophet J. Chinketia. He was also, we call him a library, a museum on fire, right? Because when he passed, we knew the depth of wisdom that was going out of the way. I'll tell a quick story. When Professor Nketia was alive, at some point, he met Eja Konimo at the University of Ghana and handed him what we call brisi. Brisi is a funeral cloth, and handed it to him as a way, kind of like almost like carrying a torch, so that nothing dies. So it was almost one of those very deep stuff that you almost need a whole new book to unpack that exchange. But he handed him a brisi cloth and charged him with the, almost like gave him a chance to go out and make sure the Ashanti story is told in a very natural, in a very authentic way to a global audience. I was just a fortunate guy to stumble onto him, and for our paths to cross, and most importantly for us to find some, I lose the words, but to find some way to connect and bring the story to the world. He's a fascinating character, and I'm just very, very humbled every time I talk about it.
Can I say thank you for writing this book? But before you give us your last word, this is what Professor Nketia wrote. He said, "It is a pleasure and an honor to write forward to 6 strings and a note. For although I'm not performing member of Konimo's band, I'm sure of the awareness of the strong intellectual and artistic ties I have with Konimo himself. It all began on the initiative of Mario Poku, who appreciated the modalities of my verbal and musical communication grounded in our tradition, which I picked up in Efremamu, and thought Konimo as we were birds of the same feathers. We kept in close touch and gained from our common traditional sources, except that we did not involved into the independent Ashanti Trial Bank. We were content with the inspiration that kept us going as content artists. Steps in the creative traditions of our forebears and pursuing the individual trails of our ancestral heritage in new creative content. Listen, guys. If I would have to go into this, we are not going to finish. You would have to go on Amazon, type in this. His name is Eric Obing Amwako Edmonds, and the book is called 6 Strings and a Note. Eric, we finalize our conversation, and what is your last word to the listener who's going to go on Amazon and get this copy? Before you say anything, I'm the person who just said something. Good morning, Kojo. I'm listening to you from Kenya. My name is Mabel, and I'm loving this conversation. I will grab it on Amazon and enjoy it. And the next one that's come through, my name is Bobby, watching you from the States. Love this conversation, inspiring and forward thinking. I will go on Amazon most definitely and get my copy. What is your last word to the person who's going to go get this book as we walk out of the conversation? Let's do it.
If a Jack Onibo was sitting here, he will say, do what you love. But make sure what you love affects and impacts the bigger world around you. And I share the same thing. Usually when I talk about his book, I almost don't do it any justice because I'm almost like an interpreter to a man who lived such a remarkable life. People like Sanketia, other people like Pabnonina, TDBA Jekum, Maria Poku, Professor, there's a long list of people who have been very influential to Ejaku Onimo's life and indirectly to my life. But they all share the same thing. The only thing you can do is share your experience in a very authentic way and tell your story. That's all he can say. And that's what I will say too. Share your story, tell your story, let it be authentic, and be bold enough, have the audacity to live in the moment.
Mr. Edmonds, I want to say thank you. His name is Eric Obing Amwako Edmonds, and he comes with this book, 6 Strings and a Note. Legendary guitarist, Ejaku Onimo, in his own words. You would have to go to Amazon. I've got my copy and I loved it. Love the creativity, love the curiosity, love the simplicity, and I love the intentionality that it comes with. My brother, I am grateful. I am thankful. Thank you for sharing Ejaku Onimo with us. Thank you for taking the time and, penciling and scribbling these things and making sure that the next generation has something to celebrate. I am proud of you. I am happy for you. And I'm glad that Ejaku Onimo has got something that we as younger people can always get. It will be a brilliant Christmas gift for your loved one. So if your father, your grandfather, or yourself, you would love to get this book, go on Amazon, www.amazon.com. Search 6 Strings and a Note. My name is Kojo Bonti Amwako. It's been a pleasing pleasure. Fantastically charged. I've been honeymoon happy and people proud. And you guys have made time in listening to us right through from May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We come to the end of our journey throughout this year. We come to the end of our broadcast today. But I promise you, in the new year, I return, and I return with a full team. I return with vibrancy. I return with sagacity. I return with joy, confidence, and most of all, grace for us to have time and enjoy with ourselves. As Eric said, dream big, go for that dream, but have the courage and the authenticity to dream. Once again, I want to thank the production team, Mr. Sina Hamidi, remarkable human being who makes this happen any morning, anytime, any day. With all the technical challenges, Sina, I am grateful. I am thankful for the work you do. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your patience. But most of all, I appreciate the fact that you go the extra mile in making this happen. I want to thank the production team. Sophie, thank you. Tom, thank you. Terry, thank you. And Sherry, also thank you for this great times that you guys have made this moment to be. My name is Kojo Bonti Amwako. Please go spend time with the family. Enjoy the moment with the family. Celebrate this time. Love each other. Dream big. Pursue your hopes. It can be difficult sometimes, but let's go for it. As we said, and as we shared with my guest, if we have the dream, we have to go pursue it. Eja Konimo did. He pursued it. From the streets of Fuanse in Ghana, went through the world and has engaged with several people. And this man has a story that we all can glean from. What is your dream? What is your hope? What is it that you're pursuing that you haven't started and you are pursuing and you don't believe, or you believe you can do? Let's have the courage. As Walt Disney said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. I am exceedingly grateful that you guys made the time coming through. For those who have listened to us on all our platforms, on WhatsApp, those who've listened to us on Huawei, for those who've listened to us on all our platforms, I'm glad that you made it and you came through. Next year, we will come your way and we will share moments and we will all extend and step into our possibilities. Once again, my name is Kojo Bonti Amwako, and I'm glad you made a time with us. If you are transferring money to anywhere in Africa, I will highly suggest and ask that you use MoneyGram. Let the money go through. Families will get it, and they will get it in safe. Your platform is secured. Your platform is very, very easy to send money. Once again, thank you, and I'm glad you've been with us. Have yourself a merry and a fantastic Christmas. Thank you, production team, and thank you, everybody. Goodbye and bye-bye for now.
Need a safe way to send money? There's a more reliable way. Send money direct to a bank account safely and securely. MoneyGram, the right way to send money. Download the app and send today.